Today on the podcast, we have the lovely Dr. Dolores Fernandez joining us. Dolores is a naturopathic doctor and the founder of my favorite moisturizer, Iris, and I'm so excited about this conversation. Today, we talk about menopause, vulvar health, and how naturopathic medicine fits into it, why so many people with pelvic pain get lost in the medical system, how Iris was created from patient need and scientific research, vaginal dryness, pelvic exams, and other things that brought Dolores to where she is today, shame, silence, and why we need to talk about the vulva, and so much more. This episode is absolutely jam-packed, and I can't wait for you to listen to it. So let's dive in. Welcome to the Pelvic Power Podcast. My name is Penny, and I am the host of this lovely space. I am a pelvic floor yoga teacher who teaches people with pelvic pain how to use movement, breathwork, and body awareness to ease and manage their pain while living a pleasurable life. In this space, we'll be talking about all things taboo because we love it, and how to support your lovely pelvis and your lovely self on this journey that you are on. I'm very happy that you are here, and I hope that you enjoy this episode. Welcome back to the Pelvic Power Podcast. I am very happy that you are here today. Today we have the lovely Dr. Dolores joining us. Welcome, Dolores, on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you so much for being here. I'm a big fan of what Dolores does. She is the founder of Iris, my favorite vulva moisturizer that I use for lichen sclerosus. So I'm very excited to dive into this conversation with her today. So welcome. Thank you for being here. So let's start off. Tell us the background of Dolores. So you're a naturopathic doctor. How did you how did you end up doing that?
Usually, when I hear people's stories of how they became an ND, it is this life experience that this medicine transformed them, and they had this calling to it. And unfortunately, I don't have a super exciting story. My parents brought me to a naturopath since I was young, and so it was just seeing an ND was part of my life, just the way I would see my pediatrician. I would also see my naturopathic doctor. So for me, it was just another career option. I really loved the holistic lens of it. I always felt like my naturopath knew a lot about medications and vaccines and drugs, and she knew a lot about, nutrition and supplements. And so I just felt like it offered this holistic lens to health. And in the conventional system here in Ontario, you just don't have a lot of time with your practitioner. And so if you had a lot of questions or you wanted to dive a little bit deeper, it was hard, not because they're not trained, but because they don't have time. And that was one of the really big factors that helped me move into this side of medicine, was just the fact that there was so much time, and that I felt that difference with my naturopathic doctor. And so I went for a tour of the school, learned what it was all about, and like that day was like, I have to go here. This is just so aligned with my life and my lifestyle of, more preventative medicine. And so, yeah, I went. I felt like I fit right in. I loved every course we took. And yeah, and then here I am.
The rest is history. So, for those of you who don't know, or for the listeners that do not know, what is the difference between a naturopathic doctor and a traditional doctor? Like, a lot of people haven't been to a naturopathic doctor, but they might be into it, interested in knowing more about it.
Yeah, it's a good question. So, my path to becoming a naturopathic doctor was 4 years of university after high school. Then you apply for grad school. It's a 4-year doctorate program. So, you finish your 4 years and you start into practice. Whereas the conventional side is 4 years of undergrad university, then 4 years of medical school, and then 2 to 5 years of residency after that. So their schooling's a little bit longer and it's a little bit more focused. So you do your 4 years of undergrad, you do your 4 years of medical school, and then that residency part, like that 2-year part, really helps them with a focus, whether it be family medicine or it be gynecology or, all the different specialties. And so the one big advantage they have is that they leave school kind of with a specialty. Like they leave with a focus. Whereas I felt like I left knowing, a little bit of a lot of things, but a little bit of each. And so that was nice because at the beginning, I had a very like family practice. I would see lots of different things, but it became hard to become really good at something, which is very different than where I am now, as you know.
Yeah.
And then as far as the schooling, for us, we're doing a little bit more of a holistic lens. So we are learning about all diseases, all medications that would treat those diseases, but then also what natural things exist to help support those diseases. And the school has really taken a turn to be a lot more evidence-based, meaning that they use what do we have research on to support these diagnoses. And so our classes would look like what's the physiology of, I don't know, Crohn's disease. Then we would say, what are your medical options and like how do the drugs work and like what's the triaging of the drugs? Like what do we do first? What do we do next? What are the nutrition options? What are the supplement options? What are the diet and lifestyle options? How does mental health fit in? And so it's a little bit more of a holistic lens on a topic, I guess. Versus, from what I understand, I haven't been through medical school, but is a little bit more drug based and surgery based, which is more of what they do. I'm sure they have some nutrition courses and maybe a little bit on psychotherapy and that kind of stuff. But I think in our lens, it's just that is the focus, right?
Mm. I love that. And it's so interesting too. Like, I love talking about this stuff because I went to nutrition school in Australia. I have a bachelor degree in nutrition and I wanted to become a naturopath. And then I ended up becoming a yoga teacher because that was my calling. But I find it really interesting. And I know that a lot of people in this space, we live with pelvic pain and we go see a doctor. We don't feel as taken care of as, in my opinion, you do when you go see a naturopath because I feel like you get listened to more, like they hear you out more and they look at different perspectives that you can look at your condition and what you can do for that condition itself.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
and honestly, it's probably that luxury of time because I have sometimes 90 minutes with people. I can do a really slow pelvic exam. I can do
Mhm.
like I have that flexibility in my schedule to really meet the person with what they need.
I love that. It's so good. It's so good. So, when you do pelvic exam, is that something that you're also taught, like as a gynecologist? You're kind of on the same, how does that look when it comes to schooling and things like that?
Yeah. So because we're primary care practitioners I'm going to speak on Ontario. What I will say is
Mhm.
every province is a little bit different, but I'm in Ontario, so I'll speak on Ontario. And so we actually perform pelvic exams, both swabs and PAPs. I know PAPs are being phased out now, but we can do them. And so we have to take the training that they get in school. So I can easily do a PAP. But a big part of my practice is people with pelvic pain. And so the 2-minute PAP that I was taught isn't going to work anymore. Now we can
Mm.
do things like a meditation before we do a PAP and we can take it slow. And so we're taught the basic training on basically how to do a PAP and a swab. And like
Mm.
that, and then like, anatomy is there as part of that pelvic exam. I took
Mm.
additional training in pelvic floor. So I took level one of like what the pelvic floor physios in Ontario take. I took the
Mhm.
first level, not because I treat my patients for their pelvic floor, but because I can do an assessment on them and say like,
Mm.
it helps me better where I want to send them next, right? Because I see a
Yeah.
lot of people with pelvic pain, both like pain and also like pelvic skin conditions. And so it just helps me get a better, again, like holistic lens of what's going on here. A lot of times there's more than one thing going on, right? And so if you've seen your GP and they've only addressed your lichen sclerosus, and they haven't talked about the pelvic floor and stretching and stuff,
Mhm.
then you don't feel fully resolved. Like you might still have some lingering symptoms, but then when we do the physical exam, the tissue looks good. So that's when people, like the practitioners, get stuck. And I find that the pelvic skin conditions or like vulvar skin conditions, I find these patients get a little bit lost in the system because it's a skin condition. So the dermatologists are the ones who are great at diagnosing skin conditions. But because of where it is, you're often sent to the gynecologist.
Yeah.
And the gynecologist doesn't know skin that well. And then nobody's really talking about the pelvic floor in this and like the muscle part of it. And so I know you're nodding your head because this is obvious, but so many people are going through it and they're like, why is nobody able to actually help me? And so it's a challenging area in medicine because there's overlap, and that's where the specialties of the conventional system don't work. They work against us
Mm.
because you kind of only know your thing, whereas we need to know a little bit of each category so we could, or each specialty, so that we could really serve the person who's in front of us.
Yeah, no, that's so true. Like I've been seeing my gynecologist who specializes in vulvar health, and then she sent me to a dermatologist, and he was like, "Oh, you should not be on the steroid anymore." And then I went back to my gynecologist. She's like, "Did he do an assessment? Like, did he even look at your skin?" I'm like, "Nope." She's like, "Okay, good. Go back on the steroid." Like, what are we doing? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. And then like what happens when the skin does look good, but you still have symptoms. And
Mm-hmm.
it's and this is where I think that the naturopathic doctor fits in so beautifully because there's lifestyle things that help too. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not anti-drug, I'll be honest with you. Like I'm often the one writing the letter to say like I can't prescribe clobetasol, but I need you to prescribe it, or like a potent steroid, and I need you to prescribe it because there's a place for everything. And
Mm-hmm.
so if you can really take your patient and like help support all the aspects, the patient leaves feeling very taken care of. And they feel really good when you and their specialist are kind of saying the same thing. And we're both
Yeah,
saying, hey, I need you to use your steroid. This is how often I need you to use it. Like they leave feeling like, wow, my whole team is on board. And then I
yeah,
might be able to add the like additional, whether it's mindfulness or diet changes or, those types of
yeah.
things.
And you feel more empowered too, right? Because like you're giving the tools and then the person, because sometimes you feel stripped of your power because you don't know what's going on with your body. And then when you work together in that way, yeah, you feel a lot more empowered as a patient. That's how I feel. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would hope so. And knowing you're not alone, right? Like I know a lot of people when they're first diagnosed are like, I've never heard of this.
Yeah.
I like they're scared. And so it's so good to have like communities like your podcast or your social media platform, like that make people feel like a sense of community, that I'm
Yeah.
not alone and there's people probably all over the world that are watching and listening and learning, right?
Yeah, I often think about that when I'm teaching a yoga class and it's like 40 people in a class and I'm like, because if it's not in this space, it's just like a yoga class in the community where I live. And there's like 40 people and I'm like, okay, one of 10 of these people have endometriosis. And I'm like, okay, how many people do I think have lichen sclerosus in this community? And maybe they don't even know about it. So yeah, it's so interesting when you start to think about it that way. Because like I talk about the pelvic floor, I talk about pelvic health in my yoga classes. And some people are maybe like, why are we talking about this? I'm like, because people don't know about it. And we need to talk about it. It's important.
And you're
Yeah.
you're like giving so much power to the people who do need it, and you just don't
Yeah.
even know because they haven't asked.
Yeah. No, exactly. And then someone comes up and they're like, oh, I have table pain. I'm like, okay, I'm going to send you to this person and then we'll figure out what's going on with you. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's how you help people feel more empowered. So I love that there's so many people as yourself who's just like making such a huge difference in the world. And it makes me so happy. Yeah. Okay, I want to dive a little bit deeper into so your specialty, you're focusing on menopause and vulvar health. Is that correct?
That
Yes.
is correct.
Would you like to dive into how you started doing
Yeah.
that and why did you choose to go in that direction?
Yeah, I always say that I did not choose to end up in this focus. It kind of chose me. I finished school, and again, like I left without a focus or without a strength, really. And I had an interest in treating people who wanted to start a family. I was like, I want to be in the fertility space. Like, I want to help couples or whoever's trying to have babies. Like, I want to be part of that. And so it didn't matter how much I advertised that. Menopause was walking into my door. So I was like, what is happening? And so I have to help these people, even though I don't really know how. And so it just forced me to really get into the research because the one thing you do leave school really good at is how to learn things. So
Mm,
even though I don't feel I like left school good at menopause, I left school good at learning. And so I said, okay, let me use the tools I do have to figure out how I'm going to treat these people in menopause. Coincidentally, at the same time, I had family members going through menopause who were calling me. And I'm like, I don't freaking know how to help any of you guys. And so I actually reached out to a mentor, a colleague of mine who has now become my mentor and who did have a very menopause focus. and I joined a bunch of associations. I wrote an exam to become a menopause practitioner, and I just became fully immersed in menopause care. And then that's now like that. And then eventually that became exclusively what I was seeing because at the time, menopause is different now. It's totally having a moment. But at the time, nobody was talking about menopause. And it almost sounded like I was the first person to bring it up to my patients that like some of their symptoms might be menopause related. And
Yeah.
so got really busy with that. One of the symptoms of menopause is vaginal dryness, the GSM, the genital urinary syndrome of menopause. And so you get vaginal dryness, but it doesn't always show up as dryness. Sometimes it's like the patient comes in being like, I'm really itchy. I have pain with sex, I have bleeding. And so I ended up doing a lot of pelvic exams. During my pelvic exams, I would find other things like lichen sclerosus, or I found a couple vulvar cancer cases. And because you create this relationship with your patients that is so intimate because you really get to know their whole life. Like my first appointment is 90 minutes. I know which of my patients have Pelotons. I know their kids' names. Like I know so much. And so now they have to have this pelvic exam and they want me to do it because they trust me and I know how. And so pelvic exams started piling up and I started finding a lot of skin conditions that were a little bit more than GSM.
Mm.
And so that's when my interest was kind of peaked because everybody would come in with certain things on their intake form, but almost nobody ever wrote on their intake form the vaginal symptoms. I would have to bring it up. So I'm like, there's a sense of shame here. Like I can
Mm.
feel that there's this resistance to talk about it. How do we normalize this and how do we treat these people? And so that just became, I still love treating menopause and I always loved it and I still do, but it came an interest to me of like, why are we having such a hard time here? I was raised in a home where like we said vagina, we said vulva, like it wasn't weird to like check your skin if it hurt. And
Mm.
so this was new to me that like, why are they having such a hard time saying that their vulva is insanely itchy to the point where they can't sleep? And
Mm.
so it piqued my interest. And if you know me, as soon as I'm interested in something, I like really dive deep. And that landed me in, doing my pelvic floor physio training, creating two products, and also adding that to my clinical focus now. I teach courses on lichen sclerosus and other vulvar conditions because again, like when I started my learning about it, I was like, I don't know anything about this. So everything I learned, I just made it into a big file and was like, you know what? How do we teach more practitioners? Practitioners need to be better at this. And
Yeah.
so this has become like my life's work now, whether I'm teaching, I'm selling a product, or I'm just one-on-one with my patients. This is what I do.
Oh, I love
Does that
that. And it
answer your
makes,
question? It was kind of
yes,
long-winded.
I'm like, you can just keep on going. I just love hearing about it. And it makes me so happy. Like it's just, it makes me so happy when I see people are doing the work for this community because I know that so many people that are listening right now, they're probably feeling so lost or sad or lonely and don't know what to do. And yeah, again, they feel like a little bit powerless because they don't know what the fuck they're doing. And then we hear people like you that are just out there fucking doing the work and helping to support us and educating other healthcare providers about lichen sclerosus or other skin conditions or vulva conditions. And it just makes me so happy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's magical work too. Like I always say, like the best feeling of my job is when people feel better and they come in and they're just like, I thought I was never gonna feel better. I thought I'd never be myself again. And it's so rewarding and it's so worth it. It's so like long nights, like lots of angry emails I get back sometimes from healthcare practitioners because I'm trying to advocate for my patient who needs a little bit more. But it's so, so worth it because people feel better, and that's what we need because then we need people to feel better so they can make their own moves in this world. We need help, right? And so people can't thrive when they don't feel good.
No, exactly. Oh, it makes me so happy. I always get freaking emotional in the podcast. Now I'm just like, oh my God. It makes me so happy to hear that there are people out there making a difference and you're one of them. And yay, go you. I'm so, so happy. So Iris, how did that
Yeah,
come about? You
nice.
spoke a little bit about your two products. Tell us more.
Yeah.
We want to hear.
Yeah. So Iris is my first baby. I always joke because I have two small children, but this is my first. And so Iris was born again, so menopause focus, kind of treat vulval vaginal health, and it was born out of a need, really. And so it was actually like prime pandemic time, and I'm treating my patients, and everything's virtual, everything's online. Couldn't really do pelvic exams, but this vaginal dryness, I feel like people were having more sex during COVID. Maybe that was just my
Probably.
patient
They
population.
were probably bored. I don't know.
Yeah, people are keeping busy, staying
Yeah.
warm. And so a lot of pelvic pain. I mean, I feel like I've always just seen a lot of pelvic pain, but anyways, I I started prescribing, and like when I was really diving into the research on menopause, I started learning that not all lubes are made the same and neither are vaginal moisturizers. So in school I was learned like somebody comes in with vaginal dryness from in menopause, first line therapy is a vaginal moisturizer. Great. Then, as I'm getting, more focused, I'm learning that not all vaginal moisturizers and personal lubricants are made the same. And I start to learn about what we actually want to know. We're looking at things like osmolality, pH. We're looking at ingredients because some products out there can actually be making the vaginal dryness worse, can actually be making the vulvar skin worse. Feels good when it's on because it's soothing, but it could be long term making it worse. And I was like, this was shocking to me. So I'm like, if I didn't
Mhm.
know this, the general public obviously doesn't know
Yeah,
this.
I didn't know that.
And so I start reaching out directly to some of the companies that I was recommending. And they either wouldn't respond or they would say things like, we don't share that information, which for me is a red flag. And
Hmm.
some of this stuff is public knowledge. So I was able to look some things up, but some of the things, if they're not on the package, you wouldn't know. And so I started working with a compounding pharmacy, which is basically a pharmacy where I can make like my own concoction and the pharmacy will make it for me. And so I started doing that. I was making a vulvar moisturizer and giving it to my patients and whatever, and people loved it. And so after maybe 60 prescriptions, I said to my husband, I was like, there has to be a better way to do this. There has to be a way that we can give people access to this without them needing to pay to see me and to pay a lot of money for a prescription. So, how do we do that? And so that brought us into product development. And so, learning about how to make a product and what are the rules in Canada to make these types of products. And so off I went. I used all of the research. And so I was side by side with our formulator creating the product. It wasn't just like I called and was like, I want to make this. It was like, they sent me prototypes and I was like, I don't want this. I don't want glycerin. I don't want, like, you didn't listen to anything I said. And fighting with these people because they're like, oh, it's going to be cheaper if you do it my way. I'm like, I don't want these irritating ingredients. Like, and so it took us a lot longer than I had hoped to launch just because this back and forth during COVID, there was ingredient shortages. It was weird times.
Yeah.
And so we
It was
launched.
just like 5 years? No, how many years? 2, 3 years were just like a blip. It was just, yeah,
Yeah,
in history.
it was awful. But we pushed through because I thought it was so important. I was my patients were my inspiration. I watched too many of them suffer. I watched too many of them not get the support they needed. I heard too many of them recommended products that sucked. And so I was like, we are going to do this for my patients and for the greater good of people who are just going into stores and buying things and they don't know any better. Let's give them a better option. And then let's educate all of the healthcare providers that this exists, right? And so that's been our mission. And we have these two products that have been formulated by me. They're science backed, meaning that I followed all the most up to date research when we made them as far as irritation and what I thought um, these products needed and did not need. And that's our two products. So we have a vaginal moisturizer or a vulvar vaginal, like it's where it's good for inside
Yeah,
and
I
outside.
wanna learn more because that's something that you just changed,
Changing.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 And then we have the personal lubricant, which is a lubricant and it's water-based.
Yeah. Yeah. I love your products. I think they're great, especially the
Yeah.
moisturizer. Talk about it all the time. But yeah,
Yeah,
so
I can tell you about it.
Yeah. Oh, we
About
want
the
to
thing I
know.
changed. So basically, in Canada, if you want to recommend a product inside the body, whether it be internal, vaginal, or oral, like if it's going inside the body, it requires a Health Canada approval and it needs to be a natural health product, meaning that it has to, like, Health Canada has to agree with everything we're saying. And I knew that we would get the approval because I used science to make it. So I'm like, duh, like we're obviously going to get approved. So we applied to Health Canada to get this approval, and our rep basically said, like, yeah, you guys are probably going to get it, but it's a year wait. Like, get in line, basically. And
Mm,
so I was like, we have this amazing product. We had like all of our testers that we had like see if they liked it. We're obsessed. And I was like, I can't wait a year to launch. Like, we're ready. Like, we have this great thing. Anyways, so I decided to launch anyways and call it a vulva moisturizer because vulva implies external.
mm,
Vaginal, if I were to have, because originally it was supposed to be called a vaginal moisturizer, but if I launched with that, it wasn't allowed because even if I
mm,
wrote on the instructions, it's not for internal use. Vaginal implies internal. So we launched as a vulva moisturizer, and on the directions, we wrote for external use only. But knowing as a practitioner that this was totally a clean product to be used internally and externally. Um, and so we just educated on that like, hey, do what you want. Hyaluronic acid is research for internal as well, but you can also just use it outside, like educated the healthcare providers and went with it. And for a year we did that. And that's why our first rendition of the packaging was a vulva moisturizer.
mm.
Then fast forward a year, we get our approval like we knew we would. We had all of our packaging ready to be changed to vaginal moisturizer. And then it was like, do we call it a vulvo-vaginal moisturizer? Because now we have this huge community of people who are really only using it externally because they don't suffer from vaginal dryness. They suffer from skin conditions, whether it be eczema. I have vulvar psoriasis patients using it, vulvar lichen sclerosus, like, and they love it. And I don't want to throw them off or make them feel like they're not included. But based on feedback, vulvovaginal felt like a mouthful and that people felt like it wasn't clear. So I just made sure on the instructions we said for internal and external use. But that was the story behind the name change. The product didn't change. Like it's still the product you know, like, and trust, but like we didn't change the ingredients or anything. It's just the name change, and it was for good reason, right? Like it's something great happened.
Yeah.
Health Canada,
Yeah.
approved us and was like, yeah, you have proved to have a medical effect.
Yeah. They probably read it and they were like, oh, this is something to do with vulvas and vaginas. We're just going to push it to the side for another year.
Oh my God, like Health Canada is so backed up. Like even like, yeah, yeah, because there's a lot of people who are submitting things and they get in the line too, and then they're not approved
Yeah.
because like I said, like I made the product knowing it was gonna get approved because I used science to make it. I didn't just say
Yeah.
like, oh, this is good and I've seen this work. Let me put it all together and make a cream. Like we really used what does the science say and how do we just make this accessible to people easily.
Yeah. No, exactly. And the ingredients in the products, so good. I know I get a lot of messages from people saying that they use the individual ingredients that are already in the product. So you have hyaluronic acid, jojoba, and vitamin E. Those
Yeah.
are like the three main ingredients,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
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 Yeah, and people, and like that was my clinical experience too. It was like people would use one of the three, and I'm like, let's just put it all together. Just make sure you use enough to get like the amount we need because we want the
Hmm.
active ingredient to have it. You got to get enough of it in order you to feel a difference. And so that's why we have like a dosing recommendation and yeah, like synergy. Put them all together, and they all work together to really like hydrate the tissue.
Yeah, and we love that. It's great. I use it every day. So,
Yeah.
where can people find the products that you have?
Well, super exciting. We're now in just over 700 pharmacies in Canada, which is like really, really something I'm so excited and proud of. We are a small business. And so to be in that many pharmacies has been like,
Yeah.
yeah, kind of mind blowing for me. We're also available on our online store. So our website,
Hmm.
which is lovemyiris.com. Penny's got a code to share with her listeners. Is it
I
Penny 10?
do. Penny 10. I'll put everything in the show notes too, so people can go find it there. Yeah.
Yeah. We're available on Amazon as well. And if you go to our website, there's a tab called Store Locator. And if you put your postal code in there, you'll find the closest pharmacies, just because I know some people prefer to buy in person. And so you have that option too now.
Ooh, I love it. Oh, this is great. I love having conversations like these. I'm like, yeah, we're going places in the world when it comes to vulvar and vaginal health and just like, yeah, feeling more confident. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, and like the products we use are important. Like I'm a huge advocate for lifestyle and movement and your mental health and boundaries and these things, but what we use topically, like with chemicals and things on our body is just as important, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so we wanted to create products that were evidence-based, that made people actually feel better. The packaging was important to me. Like I needed this to look like a beautiful product because I know that the people using it, sometimes it was hard to talk about this and it wasn't, a sexy thing that they wanted to bring up to their healthcare provider. So I was like,
Mm.
how do we change the experience for them? Let's make it a sexy bottle, right?
Yeah. It feels like a luxury bottle. I was thinking about that this morning when I was putting it on because especially since you changed the bottle a little bit with the
Mhm.
new moisturizer or the same new moisturizer, but and I just like it's a sexy bottle. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what we want, like because people do better when they feel better, whether it's like just the experience of having to use a product or the symptoms are changing, like people just do better. And so I spent enough time with my patients before I developed everything, whether it was the packaging or the ingredients, that like I was like I had all my pennies in mind. I'm like, what would Penny want? What would, this person want? Like what would and you know what I asked them? They were my people. They gave me the best feedback, right?
Yeah. No, that's so
Unfortunately, I
true.
was only connected to you after Iris
Yeah.
existed.
Otherwise, I would have been like, let's make it a pink bottle with
Yes, you would
sparkling
have.
under it.
Let's actually put a vulva picture on it.
Yeah, I would love that. That would have been great.
I know you would
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
But
No, this has been amazing. Is there anything else that you would like to share with the audience, with this community about living with pain, going through pain, anything that will make them feel, yeah, a bit more powerful?
yeah, I think that sometimes the first step is asking for help.
Mm,
And sometimes people who are living with chronic conditions, you get so used to this being your norm that you forget that there are people, or maybe you don't know that there are people who want to help, you know? Like
mm,
I tell people, I raise my hand and I say, if you have pelvic pain, if you have a pelvic condition, if you're going through menopause, if you're having issues with your libido, like I want to help you. And I've put my name on tons of lists so that patients can find me. And there is people like me that exist everywhere, right? And maybe we're a little bit hard to find, but there is people who want to help you, and it's their life goal, it's their life calling to show up for you, right? And so it never has to feel like you got to give up. You might just have to give up on your one practitioner and look for one who knows how to support you and what you're going through.
yeah, exactly. No, I love that. And it's so important to have these conversations that we're having right now because, yeah, people feel less alone and also they feel like they can talk about it more. And the more we talk about it, the more healthcare providers are also going to be like, okay, maybe I can be a little bit outside the box because I want to reach the people that I actually want to help.
Totally. And like I have some amazing primary care practitioners around me in my like physical space who we work really collaboratively because I've taught them so much through our
Mhm.
patients, right? And when providers are open to learn, because science is always changing and we're always learning more. And so when you're open to learn and let go of the things you learned in medical school 20 years ago and adjust to like what's new, the patient is best taken care of because then they have a whole team like connected and working together on your case. And so it is important for us to have these conversations so healthcare providers can listen and hear what we're talking about and what patients actually want and need.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And yeah, on that note, I feel like everyone should go and get the moisturizer because that's what I recommend. I saw my gynecologist for the first time in I think it was over a year, and she's like, "Your skin is looking so good. What have you been doing differently?" And I'm like, "Oh, I started using this moisturizer by Iris." She's like, "It looks really good." I'm like, "Oh, thank you."
Oh, good. I'm so happy
Yeah,
to hear that.
yeah,
Yeah, because sometimes it's a hard, like people get stuck sometimes with the skin changes, like where there's no movement in people
Mm-hmm.
getting better. And so it's good sometimes to tweak the plan. And so you added the moisturizer. You're super consistent too, though. Some people are not
Mm-hmm.
so consistent, which is makes a big
Yeah.
difference.
No, when I put my mind to something, I will do it.
Yeah. Well, especially when you
Mhm.
feel the difference, right? It keeps you motivated to keep going.
Oh, yeah,
You're
definitely,
amazing,
definitely.
Penny.
Oh, so are you. Thank you. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Dolores. It's been fantastic to catch up with you and just hearing your story about how everything, I've heard a little bit about it before, but hear about how everything came down and how you ended up in this space. So it's been amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
And
thanks for having me.
I will put all of Dolores's information in the show notes so you can go find her, you can email her and find her Instagram and little Iris.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you, Penny.
Thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. If you have any takeaways, I would love to hear about them. Feel free to tag us in your stories when you are listening to the episode in the car, when you're listening to your episode when you're out for a walk. Take a little screenshot. Let us know, what did you gain from this episode. And if you feel called to, feel free to leave a review. You can do so on your podcast app, Apple Podcast, or Spotify. And also feel free to leave a comment on YouTube. You can also subscribe to the YouTube channel there. That way we can reach more people and help more people that live with pelvic pain, just like you. Until next week, remember to look after your beautiful body and have a glorious day. Bye.